inserted all our charts, I think it's high time we take our charts all onto a single sheet. And we have already inserted a new sheet here called Dashboard. So I want to have enough space on my window. So what I'm going to do now is to put the display on full screen mode. This will allow me have enough view on my window. So let's go back to charts and pick our charts individually. We can either cut or copy the charts, okay? So I'll be cutting the charts and pasting them on the dashboard. So now I have this chart here, and I'll make sure I also take notes of the labels so that I don't confuse them. All right, so we copy others and bring them here. All right, now that I have all my charts in one sheet, so another thing we want to do is to ensure that we either take away the lines manually, or we will say no lines or no solid lines. But it's important I'll take them out manually by clicking the lines on the plot area and say delete. The reason why I don't want to take the lines off or the solid lines off automatically is because I still want to use these lines to work on the margins. For instance, look at this. If I come to solid line, select a color of our background to match, let's say white, because we are using a white background. Then I want to give it round corners. Okay, so I want the corners to be round. You're going to see that it has round corners. So let me put a color or give a different contrasting color so that you see the round corners clearly. So you see the corners now. It's round and it's clear. So that is why I wanted to let or allow the solid line there. So I want to do the same thing for this chart. Okay, so I want to click on the lines on the plot area and say delete. And I have it here. I will say I want it to have rounded corners. Okay, then I can just choose the same contrasting color I used earlier. Okay, so our series here is fine. We could work on it to just as we described earlier. All right, then to the line chart, we can take away these lines as well in the plot area. Then I want to make sure that my lines are smooth instead of curvy lines. I click on the series, right click on it and say format data series. Okay, so I can come back to the bucket here, the fill and effects, fill and lines rather, then scroll down to the end. I say smooth line. You see it's smooth now. Then I can come to the line again and say to the line of the chart now, not the series. You realize that the series is different. You see, this is the series option, while on the chart is the chart option. So if I want to work on the chart, I click on the chart to work on the chart option. Then I'll say solid line to give it a line, because we already used this color. It's applying automatically. So I'll still say round corners as well, so that I have the round corners here. I can do the same thing, a similar thing for the map as well. For the map, I come to border and I say solid line. Then it picks the color automatically because I've been using the color. All right. So there's something I want to show us concerning the map. If you realize now in the map, there was nothing like rounded corners as we have for other charts. For instance, take a look. There's no rounded corners. So to make sure that you can basically have the same effects you have around, we manually do this. We'll say no line. Then we come to the fill on the map and say no fill, so that we basically have fill less and line less chart here for the map. Then I will manually insert by going to Insert tab on the ribbon, go into Shapes and Icons on Illustrations, and then picking this shape, a rectangle, curved rectangle shape, and now draw the curved rectangle shape over the map. I can basically adjust the curve to match or to fit other curve. Then I send it to back. Okay, I send it to back by going to shape format while the shape is highlighted, and on the arrange group, I click the drop down on send backward and say send to back. So I have the chart now forward. But I want to make sure that I don't have a fill on this rectangle shape I added. So I'll say click the drop down on shape. I'll say white fill. It's now a white fill. So I can easily just put an outline like we had previously or in other charts. So you see now that I have a curved map just like we have in other charts. So what is important to note here is that we really need to make our dashboards dynamic because we need to cut through or drill through. So we have these charts all together now. I want to emphasize that you can as well change the colors and the appearance of your bars or columns. For instance, to do that, I can click on the series to select the series. Now we are on the series option. Click on the fill and line button. Then we go to fill and say no fill, right? Maybe we say no fill. You see the lines. Then on the border, we say solid line. Then we can change the width of the solid line. Okay, the more it's increased, the thicker it becomes. So you could have this if it's what you want. All right. So what we have to follow with is to comfortably insert, say, labels and so on, so that we clearly understand what we are doing in our charts or in our dashboards. So I want to take this down a little bit, and so that we have the space here to give our charts corresponding labels. Okay, so to do so, I will have to insert icons. Okay, I'll navigate to insert tab, then to illustration group, and I'll say icons. Realize that you have to be online to comfortably insert icons from Microsoft Office. So you could use any of the analytical themed icons, okay? So I want to use, say, this icon. I'll say insert. Right, the icon is inserted. This is total units sold by products, right? So let me take this out. So I'll resize this by clicking on this angle here, dragging, pushing into or dragging out to resize, right? Depending on the size you want. Okay, then I'll have to insert a text box following. Insert, then we could come to illustration groups, shape and icon. Then we have our text box here. I'll draw the text box to allow me write total units by product, total units sold by product. So I can adjust these, format appropriately. I'll say Control A to highlight all. Then I will give it the font color of my choice because I want it to have a particular color. Let me use orange. Change the font type to Arial Black. The font size to 14. Then I adjust these to match. Then I will take out the fill. I'll say no fill. Then the outline, no outline. I'll give this icon, I'll give it the same fill by coming to graphic format. All right. So I'll come to graphic field and give it the same orange color. So let me adjust it a little bit again. Okay, then I'll group. So I can select these two shapes by clicking on the first shape to select, hold down my control and click the second. So I'll group them by going to my ribbon and on either the shape format or the graphic format. That is because I have a shape and I have a graphics. The graphics is the icon and the shape is the text box. Okay, so I'll have two of the tabs available here because they were selected. So either on the shape format or graphic format, we can come to the arrange group, then click the drop down on group and say group. So I have them together now. Okay. All right. So I can repeat the same thing for here. So I want to copy this and have it here so that I don't have to be repeating the process. I will rename it or edit it to gross sales over time. And the time is here. Per month rather. So all I need to do now is to insert the icon. So I go to my ribbon and say insert to illustration groups and click on icons. Then select an icon of choice. You can select any icon. Then click on insert. So we have the icon inserted. I resize the icon and I have it here. To change the color, I click to select the icon, then to graphic field, and I select the colors that have been selected previously. So I group again. So we have all of this now together. Remember, you have to go ahead and use different icons. We have all of this together now. So what makes it dynamic? The dynamic nature of a dashboard or for data visualization is not just the presence of the chart, because we have the presence of the chart, but the ability to tell stories. And to tell stories, we need to be able to get insights that happened over time, utilizing the variables we've used so far. So let's insert a slicer on any of these charts. Okay, so I click to select a pivot chart. Go to pivot chart analyze. On the filter group, click on insert slicer. Then we want to select our year as the slicer because we are selecting our year because if you look at our analysis, the year is a variable that cuts across every variable that we've used here. So we'll say okay to insert the year. So we have 2 years accounted for. So let us adjust, click, hold, and drag up to adjust this. You could also adjust the colors to match your theme as well as the columns. By selecting the slicer, go to your ribbon, you see your slicer tab. Then let's select on this to have a matching color. Then on the buttons group, we currently have one button, one column, right? So if we make it 2, we have 2 columns to adjust this appropriately. So the size is for adjusting the height and the width of the slicer. While on the height and the width of the slicer here that we have under buttons is for the size, the height and the width of the slicer. So to adjust, we could adjust the width of the slicer because the height is appropriate. Okay. So I want us to test this now to see how it performs. Look closely at the charts and see how they perform. If we test it, remember we inserted the slicer on this pivot chart. When we click, you realize that it's only going to be affecting just one pivot because this is where we inserted the slicer. Let's clear filter by clicking on this funnel shaped icon. Then we'll right click on the slicer and say we want to report connection. We are reporting connection because we want to connect one slicer to all of the pivots. And if you look at here on the report connection, you see that you have other pivots available here and they are all in one sheet. Usually, if you do them in separate sheets and so on, sometimes you might have pivots that you will not be able to connect with. So, and that is why I prefer to insert all of my charts in just one sheet. So I'll have them on the sheet. So I'll check all of these pivots to ensure that my slicer is connected to all of them. Then click OK. With that done, when I click on a particular filter, which is the year, I'm going to see the effect cut across every chart, which you could see now. For 2014, for instance, Pasio was the only product sold, and it was sold between September, October, November, and December. When you look at the country, you see that you only have gross sales value here in Germany, and you have some minor sales in United States of America and Canada and so on. Then you come to the sales versus discount. You find out that December, November, October basically had higher sales, while November had much higher points of discounts. Okay, you could see them. So now we have inserted this. One way to make things beautiful is to ensure you have a well-designed chart and well-designed dashboard entirely. For instance, in Power BI, you will find out that we'll have something called cards. But if you are utilizing Microsoft Excel for dashboard visualizations, you might not necessarily have cards. But we could basically design our own kind of cards. To do that, we can basically link boxes to values. But the challenge is those links are usually very tough if you want to copy directly from a pivot table. So the values we want the sum of profit, the sum of cost of goods, and the sum of profit per segment. So because we want that, I could easily just copy this, clone this, I'll say equal to, and this is the sum I want, okay? And I have this value here. So I'll format it to Naira, scroll to where I get Naira, then click OK. You see, it's the same value. So now it will be easy for me to insert it into a box. So what I'll do to insert into a box, I'll first have to insert a text box by going to Insert tab, then the illustration group. I click on Shapes and select the box. I draw the text box now, and then click to select the text box. Go to my formula bar and say equal to. Then I go to the sheets where I have my values, which is charts in this case. Then here is C80. I click enter to have my values there. This value is connected to the pivot table. So I want to format this value now. I'll give it a new font. Let's use Canberra. Okay. You can use any font of your choice. Then I make it 16. Okay. We look at it now. We have it here. Then I'll centralize it. I just did that by saying Control A. So I'm going to take out the background of the text box. I'll also take out the outline, no outline, so that I have it like this. My intention is to insert another shape, right, which is the rectangle with rounded corners this way. Adjust the corners of the rectangle. Then I format it to have white fill. Then the line with orange as we have others. Then we'll send it backward so that we can have our values represented here correctly. So I made it bold by saying Control B. So now we have this value here. So what does this value represent? it represents total profit. So we could easily label this as total profits by inserting another text box and call it total profit. I'm centralizing it. I'll remove the shape fill and outline, no fill, no outline on it. So I want you to look at this carefully now. When we pick any year, you're going to see what our total profit was. Okay, pick 2014, you're going to see the total profit for 2014. If we clear the formatting, we are going to see our total profit for the entire duration of analysis. So we will go ahead and insert all other cards. But I want to just quickly duplicate this so that I'll just be formatting them. And I selected everyone by holding down the control button and clicking on the corresponding box. So I will click, say Control D to duplicate, and I think I have 4 of those items. So let's begin to edit this now. So we'll go back to our chart sheet. Remember that we had to take this out, right? So for this cost of goods, we are going to say equal to, then we'll get this data from the pivot so that we basically don't have any issues with representing them on those cards. So I just want to highlight to format everything to Naira so that I don't have to be doing them one after the other. Okay, so let me do for this as well, equal to get this data, enter. So I think it's 2 and not 3. All right, so let's go back to dashboard and let's take this one out because I need 2 more. So on this now, I can still edit this formula. I can take everything out, still leaving equal to there, go to charts, and I want to take cost of goods now and hit enter. So I'm going to take the cost of goods. So here I change the label to cost of goods sold. So since we have this now, I don't want to be repeating the process for changing the font and so on and so forth. So I have formatted this already. So I'm going to click on it, go to my ribbon, then on the clipboard group, I click on Format Painter. So I will then click here to implement the formatting I had done earlier. So let's just edit this one now. I take out the address and I go to my charts sheet. Then I pick this, which is segments and profits, and hit enter. I want to implement the formatting I have here already here. So I click on it and I go to my ribbon to copy the formatting on Format Painter. Then make sure you don't click anywhere else. If not, you are going to put the format out, except on the item where you want to implement the formatting. So this was what? Segments and profits. Okay. We edit this segments and profits. So we've basically entered this successfully. So we can slice through to see that it all works. And the reason why this works, right, is because the values are dynamically connected to pivot tables. And that is why we could easily filter through them, okay? So to make our dashboard looks beautiful, we need to remove this outline, these grid lines rather, from Excel. So we'll go to our ribbon, we go to view, and then on view, we'll remove grid lines, okay? Now the grid lines are gone. So if you want to remove these numbers, these row numbers, and the column headings, all you need to do is to remove what? To remove headings. If you remove headings, they are gone. You see them, they are gone. Okay. This is just a simple way of making a dynamic dashboard.